Galaxy 666 by Pel Torach. Session 47.
Welcome back to Galaxy 666, your ever-vigilant guide to here. Pel spends the first part of Chapter 13 trying to get himself out of the difficulty that he got himself into in Chapter 12, to wit, how can the humans be frozen and not dead? How does he address this problem here? That thought was a bit too metaphysical, a bit too weird for Ishklaw to waste any time developing it. Until they had more knowledge of the weapon that had been used against them, they would have very little idea of what had been happening to them while they had been under the influence of that weapon. And now, do we, as highly experienced mariners of Galaxy 666, think for a second Pel will ever bring back that weapon again? Of course not. Let dead chapters lie buried. Of all the sayings that Korzak knows from the 20th century, it's steady the buffs. It isn't take it down a notch. It isn't remain calm. It isn't steady men. It is instead an esoteric colloquial quip from 1848. Really. Think of all the sayings that have stood the test of time, and you will see most of them are morals or rhymes. A bird in the hand is worth two in the bush. A stitch in time saves nine. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. Rarely do you have sayings continue for thousands of years when they are tied to very specific circumstances. You may have heard the saying, going like 60. But if so, you are most likely approaching or well past 60 yourself.
Then let's get the hell out of here, in the words of the classics,
said Oski. Why? Why is Pel so desperate to keep this group tied to the 20th century? Had Oski just said, then let's get the hell out of here, no reader would have given it a second thought. But no, Pel has to, compulsively, add in the words of the classics. Every time he does this, the reader is forced to stop reading, get up, cross the room to retrieve the book that they had just thrown in painful disgust. We have delved into this before. It all remains true, and it will be one of our many tests of patience to continue to endure this nonsensical historical referencing. But there is always a silver lining. Pel is continuing to give Bronit a constant character, and that character is one that does focus on action over verbalization. Looking at Bronit's lines in Session 46 shows that he is trying to develop a plan and move forward with it. Are there weapons? Are they trying to kill us? Can we kill them? Run. This helps us to contrast him with Oski's backbiting spite and witless commenting, Ishklaw's philosophically wandering mind, the question man, or Korzak, the idea man. Like most chapters, Pel brings out some obscure references that we'll touch on for the sake of comprehension. To begin with, the previously mentioned phrase, steady the buffs, is a saying taken from the British military. According to the Urban Dictionary, the phrase itself originated in 1858 when the adjutant of the Buffs was administering a parade of his regiment under the gaze of a rival regiment, the 21st Fusiliers. Not wanting to be embarrassed by an undisciplined parade, he shouted out, "Steady the Buffs," to get his men into order. It became a common phrase in the British Army and was popularized by Kipling. It is said as a warning to others to maintain discipline and order. The Gadarene swine reference comes from the Christian New Testament, the book of Luke, chapter 8, verse 26 to 33, which reports an event in which Jesus sails to an area called Gadarene, where he comes to a man possessed by many demons. Jesus commands the demons to come out of the man and sends them instead into a sounder of swine, which then charge headlong down the bank and into the water to drown themselves. The phrase has now come to represent the concept of groupthink, or everyone going in the same direction to their own detriment. In short, Oski is not in favor of Ishklaw's strength in numbers argument. Of last note is the fact that Korzak breaks his narration model again. As the team of four depart the original chamber on the alien ship, as a limited third-person narration, our ability to know what happens later in that room should also come to an end. However, we are treated to a final scene of the aliens discovering the missing humans. Most likely Pel just wanted to get to his description of maggots working their way through a corpse, which does provide a good sense of what the aliens are doing, but it creates subconscious questions in the mind of the reader as well. Why do we not always know what the aliens are doing? Will we now watch the hunt for the humans from the alien perspective or from the human perspective? Are we now going to get into the mind of the aliens? Those questions and many more will most likely not be answered as we continue to probe the limits of
Galaxy 666.
Here ends Session 47.